Okay, just to preface this video, I did not know that Dr. Yellower would be making his own video on the subject, and I am not copying him. This is going to more focus on how PotatoPie is less than correct about his explanation of how Knockback Fish isn't that OP in Skywars. Also, shout out to Dr. Yellower. His video on his point of view on this will be in the description if I can remember that. Pretty good guy. He makes a lot of good points and explains some stuff I won't be going over at this time. Now let's get for the regular video. This video is going to be a criticism of PotatoPie's video on the Knockback Fish, his most recent upload as of this time. No hate to him or his channel or anything. I just have a few little problems, you'd say, with his representation of the fish. I'm going to be explaining some of the current flaws of it, and I'm going to be going over his PotatoPie's latest video and critiquing it. His video will also be in the description, if I can remember that. I hope I can. So, basic intro to the Knockback Fish. This item is one that gives a rather large amount of knockback per hit. It says knockback 1 on the fish, but it's in reality like knockback 3 or something. It's just irritating. And it is used on another player to send them flying into the void, usually head first. Most people have this love-hate relationship with this item because it's overpowered and it's easy to use. But it's not fun to be on the receiving end of. And if you ever played Skywars, you know this for any longer than like 3 hours. It's also a quote-unquote rare item, and it's simple to use, it's easy to abuse, and it's hard to fight against. I'll be going over the quote-unquote later. What makes it so hard to fight against is currently there are no real counters, as even clutching, like with a pearl or something like that, is incredibly hard to do to the type of knockback it gives. So instead of like sending you up and away, like what would be with a snowball, instead it just hits you out and down, which sends you really quickly into the void. And it changes everybody's playstyle once they usually get this item. It turns them to KB abusing and running for the entirety of a game just to sort of get an easy win. I can understand this, everybody does this. It's just being a general nuisance. The same reason why most more competitive sumos, they ban snowballs, as most players view it as irritating to deal with, and people will just spam them into oblivion. It just pisses everybody off, and nobody enjoys the game when that happens. And that was a bit of my piece on the Knockback Fish and why they are OP. Now for Potato's video, where I will be explaining it more in detail. And let's get into that. Okay, this is going to be a review of Mr. PotatoPie25's video, and this is going to be a critique over his video. So, let's begin.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with the Knockback Nemo on the Hive at this current time.
Well, that's his opinion right there, which we're going to be debating. This is going to be a bit nitpicky at sometimes, but I don't really care.
Yes, I just said that, and I believe it to be true. Now, I'm aware that this goes against what most of the community thinks of the Nemo at the moment, and that it's a very, very controversial opinion.
Yes, this is very correct. Thank you for stating this, Potato.
That being said, in this video, I'm going to explain my reasoning on why I personally think the Knockback Nemo is in a good state right now, and for the people who still think it's broken, I'm going to explain some ways that it can still be easily countered.
Easily countered. Okay, I would love to hear this, as most of us don't have anti-KB hacks and crouching at So, crouching to prevent from getting hit off and sprinting at them no longer works, so that's always fun. Thank you. If you please do have one, if you actually have one, please do mention it at some point in this video. And lag.
Usually this is the part of the video where I tell you to leave a like and subscribe, but honestly, all I ask is that you wait until the end of the video to form and share your opinion.
Well, here's an opinion you were asking for. I mean, please wait till the end of the video to share your thoughts as well in the comments. Or you could just, not. I don't know, it's all really up to you.
Enjoy this one. Alright, so on a random Monday about 2 weeks ago, an update showed up on the Hive updates page titled Skywars, a very Nemo update. It read, "The following update is now live on Skywars. Knockback Nemo now correctly applies some vertical velocity so that crouching no longer completely counters the item."
I have no qualms with this. I'm just really waiting for opportunity I can really talk. That's why there's going to be some pauses here and there, just letting his video run.
So, if you remember how the Knockback Nemo used to work, you'll know that it did horizontal or basically straight knockback. It didn't do any vertical or upwards knockback, meaning that you could just hold crouch at the right time and not get knocked off by the Nemo. Now,
Well, yes and no. I have some... well, let me put it this way. While crouching did get rid of it, it would also put you in such a vulnerable position. Let's say if you were getting hit to the edge, like the clip you just showed with Danny doing that, all he has to do is like switch to another slot, hit him with it, and the guy just falls into the void. It's one of the worst positions you can be in, and most of the time you just die if you ever wound up in that situation. Crouching would help very little. It was still useful, but it helped very, very little. It wasn't very overpowered in the slightest. It was a rather dangerous thing to do, and it lost you the game more often than it actually gave you the win.
the way that knowledgeable players would counter this would be to hit them with a sword or a snowball just to get them up in the air a little bit and then hit them with a Nemo, and then they would go flying.
That's why it was good. It would encourage people to use other weapons, not just KB abuse. I still don't understand why that's a bad thing. Encourage more versatility.
But it seems like a lot of people didn't know about that strategy, and so they would just spam the Nemo and hope for the best.
This is one of the more irritating parts, as it seemed like, okay, you could literally get a level 1 player who's only played the game for, let's say, like 2 hours, 3 hours max, and they'd know about how to crouch. They'd know how to avoid the knockback from it. It was widely known, and only a slight few people that don't play Hive at all, or aren't even invested in the community at all, did not know about it. Only a few of those players didn't. It was just a widely known way to deflect it. Was it the best? No, but it still worked. I don't understand why he's saying that it's very rare. Most people knew about it.
The new Nemo, on the other hand, kind of removes the need for that first hit with something other than the Nemo. All you have to do now is just hit the other player with it, and they'll be sent flying a few blocks. However,
And this is not more OP than the old Nemo, like, in the slightest, you know? I'm not seeing how this is less OP, or not OP in the slightest.
if you hit the other player with a sword or a snowball, well, rest assured, they'll be taking a one-way trip straight to the void. The updated Nemo,
And this is what I mean. It's incredibly hard to counteract in any way. Isn't this also just being really overpowered? Like,
Is honestly pretty powerful now, and I think that's a good thing. However, like I said in the intro, it seems like a lot of the community disagrees with me here.
Which part are they disagreeing on? It not being overpowered or it not being broken? Like, brokenly overpowered, because everybody agrees it's overpowered. It was also overpowered before. I still don't understand why you think that it is good that it was changed.
Let's take a look at this post on the Hive forums from a few days after the new Nemo was released. It reads, remove vertical Nemo knockback. Before Nemo's had vertical knockback, it was hard to get someone off the map from the ground because it did less knockback to someone who wasn't midair. This made crouching an easy counter to it. However, a player with any form of skill can easily hit the person once to get them in the air, then with the Nemo. A very easy way to render the crouch counter useless. Now that you can knock someone into the void from the middle of an island, an edge is given to the noobs who flail around a rare item they got from mining emeralds. Would I be wrong to say that the intended use of Nemos is to knock people off of bridges or very small islands such as the one on Violet Keep? The old Nemo was still good for that, and now the only counter for a Nemo is an Ender Pearl or an insane combo. Now,
Yes, Yellower has made quite a few good points, and it's mostly all pretty good ones. There are a few problems where he understates the rarity of the fish, but a lot of people do. More on that in a bit, but he got pretty much the KB abusers correct, and pretty much nailed the point I made earlier about you being able to just punch somebody off with any other item. It's not that hard to do. Now, another thing to consider is this guy is a trapping YouTuber. Dr. Yellower, that is, not Potato. And he's one of the people that would more appreciate this update than anybody else, and he's going against it. That should maybe give you an idea of how universally disliked this is by the community. You not seeing this at all, Potato? Like, in the slightest, he was the one who trapped you after all, and you don't seem to give him any credit for being knowledgeable in the field of it.
that was a lot, so let's unpack this and talk about why I disagree with quite a lot of the statements in this forums post. So the first couple of sentences are just explaining what the Knockback Nemo used to be like, which is something that I've already gone over, and we don't really disagree too much on that. The first statement I take issue with, though, is the one that says, an edge is given to noobs who flail around a rare item they got from mining emeralds. I feel like the person who made this post kind of countered their own argument here.
How exactly did he counter his own arguments?
They said
would you please explain that?
it's a rare item that drops from emeralds, which is true. It is a very rare item, and in fact,
Very rare item.
it spawns in 1.2% of emerald drops. Think about it this way. Out of every 1,000 emeralds that are mined on Hive Skywars, 12 Nemos will drop.
Oh boy, this is gonna be the fun part. That's not how it works in practice. On paper, 1.2% is the amount of time the Nemo will drop. Let's say that. The weird thing about Hive is it has slightly off RNG, just teeny little bit. It's sort of boosted sometimes and dropped others. That's why you might only get chest plates if you mine 7 diamond ores, like 7 chest plates in a row. You might get a helmet from time like once or twice, but you might only get chest plates. That's happened to me before, and that happens to a lot of other people. And if that can happen at all, that means there can be multiple fish per game, making it not that rare of an item, and it's still stupidly broken. So I'm not really seeing how it being rare makes it more or less overpowered. It's still broken. It's still brokenly overpowered. Changing the rarity does not make that any less of a truth. I've had games where there have been 4 fish in play. I've even mined up 2 fish in a row. Sorry about that. I'll post that clip right about here. let it roll for a little bit, and that can when that happens, there is a possibility that all four, let's say, if everybody gets a four, if four fish in the game, everybody that has one survives to the end of the game. That's just so irritating because most of them are going to be running away from each other trying to use the fish. It's just very irritating. And let's say that there's one person that doesn't have a fish. Well, unfair that would be to anybody else. It just, it just, why? It's, it's happened before. It can happen, and it will happen even after this video has been made. It's such a common occurrence and should be treated as such, not a once every 7 games or something like that.
On average. A lot of times, you will literally play multiple games without anyone in your game getting a Knockback Nemo.
That sometimes happens, but also sometimes you never get a chest plate all game. You never get leggings, you never get boots, you never get a helmet. That's because of the Hive's weird damn RNG.
And even in the games where someone ends up getting one, there's a decent chance that they'll end up dying to the void or just forget to use it before you even end up encountering.
That is so incredibly wrong. The only time they die is very rare, and that's either due to you managing to knock them off, which is pretty hard to do, because most of the time they'll just run for the entire game, occasionally turn around, try to knock you off with the fish, and if that doesn't work, they'll continue doing it. It just promotes this cycle of continuously trying to KB abuse, run, KB abuse, run, KB abuse. It just prolongs the game. Nobody likes that.
The fact that it's such a rare item means that it's gonna spawn so infrequently that it's really not gonna affect the majority of your game.
Roll the clip. By the way, there are 3 fishes in total this game. I'm gonna show. Not fun. Not fun at all.
The other argument that the poster had just in this sentence, and that was repeated in the comments multiple times, was that it takes no skill to use. However, the players that actually lack skill aren't really going to be able to use it in any meaningful way anyways.
So, you're saying that being able to use an item that knocks people into the void is difficult to use. It's literally on the item. Anybody that sees that knows that it knocks people into the void. It makes it easier to do this. It's not rocket science. It's simple. Easy to use. Most people, they can just pick it up and see that knockback little thing on it, a little enchantment, and they understand what it means. They understand what it's gonna do. Most people, whenever they get one, they see it as a really easy win. You new players will use one against someone closer to mid, and they'll just try to lure you out to the edge by running consistently. Just trying to get you knocked into the void. Sorry. I need to hydrate.
Just spamming the Nemo on flat ground literally won't do anything useful.
It pushes people towards the void. That's pretty damn useful in my opinion, you know? It's just slightly useful, you know? Just slightly.
It just knocks them back a few blocks and then they're on the ground again. If a so-called unskilled player uses it in a way that gets the kill or gets what they want done, then can that really be called unskilled?
Yes, that absolutely can be called unskilled. As I've stated before, it's not rocket science. Not everything is difficult to do. People can just pick up a snowball and with basic knowledge of the game, right-click, throw it, and hit a player with it. Did it take a little bit of aim? Yes, but that's not really truly skill. That's just basic abilities in the game. I mean, as I stated earlier, fish is simple to use. People see a knockback 1, instantly know how to use it. It's not hard to understand or use.
Or did their opponent just play badly around it? Also, the poster says that they felt like the intended use of the Knockback Nemo was to knock people off bridges and small islands. While it's true that those were what the Nemo was most commonly used for back in its old state, I don't think it's fair to say that those are the only things that the Nemo was used for, nor should it be. I think it's obvious at this point that the Hive wants players to be able to play the game in as many ways as possible, and I think that the Knockback Nemo is very versatile in the ways that it can.
It's versatile, alright? It's very, very versatile. It's a real game changer, you know? It makes anybody who has it pretty much a damn god. It's pretty much a guaranteed win, especially on a map like Pillars, which you're currently playing on. Knockback fish on Pillars are one of the most broken items. You can just slightly be in towards the middle of mid, hit somebody once or twice with it, they go flying off the void. The middle outer ring, hit them once, they're pretty much off. It's not very skillful. It's pretty easy to do. It's pretty much always a guaranteed victory.
Be used. There's no intended use for it. Players are free to do what they want with it and discover new ways that it can be used. Now, I want to discuss something that was mentioned in the comments section of this forum's post, which is the fact that people are saying that the Nemo has a lack of counterplay. Basically, they say that you can't really do anything against anyone that has a Nemo. However,
This is entirely true, and there's like no easy counter. There's no reliable way to combat it. In a 1v1 situation, and somebody has a fish and another person doesn't, who do you think's going to win? It's going to be the person with the fish. It's not like it's regular, like UHC or something, where there's no void. Knockback is pretty overpowered. If the only method I can think of right off the top of my head would be getting yourself a cobweb or digging yourself into a small 1x1 hole. But that's the thing about it. It just gives your opponent an easy opportunity to run, which they are obviously going to do to get you out of that hole, because that's going to be engaging them in sword fight, and they don't want to do that when they got something overpowered. And that also limits your movement and your maneuverability and reach. That's not very effective of a counter. It just gives your opponent time to escape. Gives your opponent time to regen. So if you've been doing any damage before, it's going to be pretty much nullified, because they can just run away, get redstone, or spell a life.
I think there are plenty of ways that you can counter the Nemo. Check out this one from my stream a couple of days ago. Why? Okay, well, I'm gonna wait till this guy gets bored then. And he's gone. Look, that's how you deal with Nemos. You literally just sit there and make them come to you.
That is not going to happen in most situations. Like, at all. Most of them don't have any consideration for running out the clock. They have no qualms with it. They have no problem with doing that. Also, you said plenty of methods to combat this. Please share some more that would actually be useful in game. Waiting somebody out isn't going to work on most maps. It might work on this map once or twice. Pillars, by the way. But most of the time, it does not do anything at all.
Never rush a guy if you know he has Nemo, which is what I avoided earlier. Now, with that being said, you're not always going to be fighting someone on a bridge with a Nemo. Sometimes you might just fight people on an island or whatever, but the fact that you're in Skywars means that Void is always near, and the Nemo is still going to be pretty useful if you use it correctly.
This is literally what Skywars is. It's about knocking people off. Making it easier to knock people off and giving that advantage to a random person that could be of any skill level, and they can pick it up and know what to do with it. It's a game winner, as I've said. It's going to win you the game most of the time. It's not rocket science to understand how to use it. It is just so rare that somebody doesn't KB abuse. It is just so rare. I've only had that happen once or twice where somebody will just not use a fish. It's and then they usually fall into the void either way.
When I was playing Sky Wars on stream the other day, I fought against a fairly well-known sweat on the Hive named Delta. I had a Nemo, he didn't, and he still managed to counter me for a couple of minutes before he was able to finally kill me. Here's how it went. It's Delta, hold up. I wonder what that means. I do as well. Oh man, that's crazy. Ah, he's playing the smart. Very funny item. Okay, it's a 1v1 versus Delta. He has a chest plate. I don't. He's not gonna fight. I gotta camp this here because that's literally the only thing you can do with a Nemo.
You for stating my point. People will just camp and run. This is literally what you're doing right here. You're gonna eventually time out the game. Possibly do it. Delta, he wants to fight you. You can, if you know any Skywars player, they will want to fight you. He is trying to get over to you without getting knocked into the void. You know how hard that is? Or do you not really understand that?
Oh no, I seem to have gone AFK.
Typical strat for the players. Everybody knows this. Nobody falls for this. Well, maybe once or twice, but nobody usually falls for this. They know that you're pretending to be AFK.
That is crazy. Oh man. I just walked away from my computer, guys. Oh no. He's not gonna fight me. We're probably gonna be sitting here for 5 minutes, chat. I hope.
Prolonging the game again. Isn't that like in the Hive rule somewhere where prolonging the game is bannable, you know?
You realize that. He's probably watching the stream, honestly. Win this? I'll try. Please, no. Oh. Oh my god, he played that so well. I tried my best here, but Delta literally just played this perfectly in so many.
That's because he's a sweat, as you said. That occurrence happening where you get shot off is so incredibly rare, though. Don't mind me. Dad walked in and interrupted the recording. Anyways, this is what I was talking about. You were literally making the game much longer than it needed to be. You nearly timed out the damn game. There was less than 3 minutes left on the clock. The only reason that he won is because he got that lucky snowball. If not, the game would have most likely timed out. Also, bit of a side tangent here, but you seem to have no problem with prolonging the game, making it longer than it really needs to be in favor of attempting to knock back fish somebody off. But you get pissed off when somebody else does it to you with the exact same item. This is why I stopped watching your streams. It always came up and off as hypocritical. And it's just been so irritating for a while. Being there watching something like this happen. Sorry. But yeah, let's get on with the rest of it.
in so many ways. Most of the time he kept himself on the opposite side of the void from me, so I couldn't even hit him into the void if I wanted to. And even when he was in between me and the void, he always had some sort of backup plan. Whether that's an ender pearl or some blocks or something else, he made sure that there was a very, very, very low chance that he was going to end up in the void.
Very, very, very low chance of getting hit into the void. When you literally just showed a clip of him almost dying to the void. Does this not strike you as, contradictory? Contradicting your own statement right here? He barely survived that. Any Skyward Sword player can tell you, he nearly died to that hit. That is not low chance of death. That is barely surviving. And he only managed to get away because he spammed blocks to prevent you from hitting him off, and that also reduces your KB quite a bit. Which is another thing you seem to absolutely hate, but have no problem with doing so yourself. Which, why I really stopped liking your stream so much. Also, what happened to the other ways to counter the Nebo fish? We're almost past this segment. The only thing you've really stated is getting up close against the wall, which it only really works on that map. Take a map like Ivory. You are so close to getting knocked off at any point if you got a fish. The only real part you don't have a chance of getting knocked off is the little mid circle and the little place with the buildings, because you can put your back up against those if you're lucky. That you don't always get that lucky. You don't always get that chance. This is just irritating. Also, having a backup plan, as you put it, with pearls, as I stated earlier, it is so incredibly hard to clutch against those things. They're so hard to clutch against. So what good is a pearl really gonna do you? Some people can do it. I've done it before. Does that make it easy or difficult to not difficult at all to pull off? No. It's incredibly hard. Most of the time you're not gonna be able to clutch it. They're so hard to do and execute properly. This little section wasn't very informational. To me, at least. I'm not sure about anybody else, but to me, it was not informational in the slightest. So, do you have any other information, or is it in the last, 3 seconds, or nah? Well, let's continue.
For the entire fight, he had better armor than me, so all he had to do was get some hits on me and then just put on a masterclass at how to counter a Knockback Nemo on Hive Skywars.
So you're saying that new players aren't able to counter this very well? Doesn't that make it much harder to play against and make it overpowered? No? You're not seeing that at all? Not at all? Okay.
Now, since people are probably going to mention it in comments, I do want to talk about traps that require an element of surprise and also use Nemo. Look, if you're getting trapped in some way involving a Nemo, you are probably going to die to that trap with old Nemo as well. I feel like the new Nemo update really doesn't change much in terms of how Nemo works in trapping. At the end of the day, the core value of it is that it does a lot of knockback very quickly. In a trapping situation, you're probably never going to have enough time to react to it anyways, so it really doesn't matter too much.
Getting rid of a counter is a big change to trapping. It is such a huge change to trapping. Also, never having enough time to react. You have about half to 3/4 of a second to react after you get hit with the fish. If you have an Ender Pearl, new players, they probably won't be able to do something, especially if they don't have hotkeys set up. But experienced player, they can maybe clutch. That's assuming they can pull it off in time. Now, before you could just crouch and maybe get out of it. It would put you in a very vulnerable position, but You could still get out of it. It's possible. So, you're saying that it's just not worth it to try a Pearl Clutch or something like that? Because that's the vibe I'm picking up here. This entire update made trapping so much easier for anybody using a knockback fish as a trap. It made it so much easier. It makes it so much harder to combat as well. Let's just say you had little Nemo trap like what Evident did, is the clip you just showed. You could have shifted out of that, or say you could have used a pearl. That would have been no change to that trap. Other traps, on the other hand, like the hit through the wall one with a knockback fish, most people will know about that, and some of them, they'll just crouch across. That's a big change right there, because the fish makes it so you can't crouch across any longer. It's just not true in the slightest that people never have the reaction time to be able to do it. You might not be able to. Other people could. I might not be able to clutch something that other people can. You never know. Apparently it's not enough time for you to react. Other people can. Sorry for sounding like a broken record. I feel like I've Verona right now or something. Well, anyways, continue on.
That's just my opinion at least. The reason why I made this video was to, 1, give my thoughts on the Knockback Nemo, and 2, promote a more widespread discussion on the item. I've seen some discussion about it in my Discord server and on the forums post obviously, but since there are very, very differing opinions on it, I feel like having more discussion overall is a good thing. I know that a while back the Hive had a little questionnaire that went out to a very small amount of people asking about their thoughts on the Ember Sword, Crumbling Cobblestone, and Knockback Nemo, but I only know a couple of people who got that, and not everyone was able to voice their opinion. Look, if you've got an opinion on the state of the Knockback Nemo at the moment, let me know in a comment on this video. I'm really interested to hear what all of you have to say about it, and I hope that this video can help promote better discussion on the Knockback Nemo. Thanks for watching.
Well, here's some of the discussion you wanted. This has been my little bit on why the Knockback Nemo is broken and overpowered. As I said before, I'll be linking Potato's video in the description along with Dr. Yellower. Definitely give his video a check as well. It was pretty good. Now, my personal changes, if I would make something to it, I would change it so that way it maybe had a cooldown on how much you could use it. Like, you can only use it 5 times or something before it breaks, or you have to wait 10 seconds after hitting somebody with it. Maybe not that much, but it's something to change it up. Something to make it less overpowered. Something to prevent people from spamming it all the time. Make it more of a strategical weapon. I mean, you guys made Fire Sword so strategical, and now you guys are saying that the knockback fish is already strategical enough. No, it's not. It needs to have more strategy to it. Well, that's my take on it. Also, maybe the Hive fixing their random RNG would help. Anyways, this is Bo Assassin, signing off.